Right now on Upfront.
The new Congress.
Well, what did
I
you
didn't
get?
get anything personally other than a commitment that things are going to change.
Lawmakers back in Washington, Republicans in full control. Trump's nominees set to face the Senate, and January 6th just hours away.
There are some controversial picks among the group.
Our guest this Sunday, Democratic Senator Tammy Baldwin. The new Senate Democrats' game plan and Trump's nominees. We'll get to it all. Plus, Congressman Brian Stile, the House Speaker vote, the razor-thin majority, and the Republican agenda.
Uncounted.
I thought this was so egregious.
The new investigation, Madison not counting nearly 200 absentee ballots during the November election. Ann Jacobs, chair of the State Elections Commission, is here, and the answers she's demanding. Then the first 100 days, what's in store and what's at stake. ABC News Washington Bureau Chief Rick Klein with the new insight.
And remembering Jimmy Carter, his legacy, including close-up here in Wisconsin.
This is Upfront with Jaron Jordan and political director Matt Smith.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us. A new Republican-controlled Congress officially sworn in this weekend. Lawmakers now back on the Hill.
Tomorrow, January 6th, Congress and Vice President Kamala Harris will certify President-elect Donald Trump's win ahead of his inauguration on January 20th. All of this as Trump's nominees return to Capitol Hill with confirmation hearings set to begin this month. Democrat Senator Tammy Baldwin joins us now from Washington. She was sworn in Friday to begin her third term in Congress. Senator, welcome back to Upfront. Happy New Year.
It is wonderful to join you. Happy New Year to you and all your viewers.
We will get to the business of this new Congress in just a second, but I do want to start with the terror attack in New Orleans. We do have a number of high-profile events set to take place there in Washington over the next couple of weeks. The certification of the presidential election results on the 6th, and then, of course, the inauguration on the 20th. In the wake of what we've seen in New Orleans, are you confident in the security around the nation's capital?
Well, first, let me just say that my heart goes out to all the victims of this horrendous attack. And I want to thank law enforcement and first responders for running into harm's way and preventing further casualties. And I stand ready to work with anyone to make sure that our law enforcement here, as well as in New Orleans and everywhere in the country, have the resources and tools they need to prevent this sort of senseless attack. Returning to Capitol Hill, as I have, it is very clear, very apparent of the additional security resources that are being deployed to the Capitol and Capitol Hill in particular. Some of it's visible, some of it's not going to be apparently visible.
Senator, because of New Orleans, some Republicans have said it's now even more essential to quickly get President-elect Trump's national security nominees in place. Senator Barrasso recently said lives depend on that. Do you feel that same urgency?
Look, I take my role of advise and consent very seriously. And what I intend to do with every one of President Trump's nominees is to give them a fair and deliberate hearing. I do think that it's important to have a security team in place as early as possible, but I also have concerns with some of the folks in that national security and security team that President-elect Trump has nominated. And I think it's really important that they are well vetted, that we get to review the FBI vetting, and that we ask the tough questions that they need to answer before any vote takes place.
Who specifically are you speaking of?
Well, I will tell you that I have concerns about what I have heard in the mainstream press about Hegseth, his nominee to be Secretary of Defense. Kash Patel, who is his nominee to head up the FBI, also causes me concerns. There are concerns of different types with regard to each of those nominees. And that's why I'm going to be very interested to see the FBI vetting materials, to meet with them if possible, and to see the hearings unfold when they are asked tough questions and have to answer. I will say there are other nominees that President-elect Trump has made that I feel very good about. Take, for example, Sean Duffy, a former congressman from northern Wisconsin who has been tapped to lead the Department of Transportation. I worked with transportation issues with Sean Duffy when he served in the House of Representatives. So I feel really good about the idea of having a Wisconsinite in that role who actually knows the infrastructure needs of our state.
With Republicans in full control there in Washington, what's the playbook for Senate Democrats at this point? Is the main goal to block the Trump agenda?
Oh, absolutely not. I mean, think about, well, first, I have served in the minority and I have served in the majority. And as a U.S. Senator, knowing the Senate rules where you need a bipartisan alliance to get bills passed, you need 60 votes, not just a simple majority. I am used to reaching out across the party line. Even when we're in the majority, it's important that I do that.
Senator, you were a bit of a rarity for Democrats winning your race in November. Did Eric Hovde ever personally call you to concede?
No, he didn't.
Were you surprised by that?
Look, he just didn't.
Senator, the party is now looking ahead. Senator Schumer announced this past week he's endorsing Ben Wickler for the chair of the DNC. Is Ben what the party needs at this moment, and do you think that he can win?
Ben is exactly what the party needs right now, and I'm an enthusiastic supporter of Ben Wickler for a DNC chair. Look, he has a very pragmatic approach, but it is one that I think needs to be replicated beyond Wisconsin. And frankly, we might have had success in other states where we didn't if we had a model like we see in Wisconsin.
Democratic Senator Tammy Baldwin, Senator, like always, thank you.
Thank you.
From Washington to Madison this weekend, the Wisconsin Elections Commission now investigating how nearly 200 absentee ballots weren't counted during the November election. City officials say they discovered the error 1 week after the election, but didn't report it to state election officials for more than a month.
Ann Jacobs, a Democrat, is chair of the bipartisan Wisconsin Elections Commission. She prompted this move. She joins us now. Ann, good to see you. Welcome back.
Thank you for having me.
I know you've been working to craft some specific questions for the city and for the clerk. I'm curious, as we sit here at this moment, what is most pressing in your mind? What does the commission still not know about this?
There's a few important issues we don't know about what happened in Madison. The first of which being, how did these ballots not get noted as having arrived in the clerk's office, which we think that's what happened, but we're not even sure. And secondly, how were they discovered? Why were they discovered so late? And most importantly, what can we do to try to make sure that this doesn't happen again in the future?
So as you contemplate all of those questions, and what is the commission's authority at the end of the day? Are you looking to hold people accountable, and what would that look like in this case?
Really, the goal is remedial. The goal here is to figure out, we can't fix a problem if we don't know how it happened. So something happened here that is not tolerable, right? We can't have people submitting their ballots on time and not having them get counted. That we can't do. So what we need to do is figure out why it happened, get to that root cause, prevent it from happening in the future. And, whether the commission chooses to do something more than just a directive to not do it again, and here's why you need to do it differently, that's going to be up to the commission. But I really think the emphasis from all of us is to prevent it from happening again.
Dan, and I think some may be watching and saying, well, listen, how do we not know what happened? Can the clerk, can the city just not tell people what happened? Are they cooperating? Do people not know what happened? I mean, what is the current state of this?
That's all great questions. And those are the exact same questions the commission has. Which is, we have very little information. We have some broad strokes of dates and actions, but it's extremely limited. And so we did send out, on Thursday, we sent out a request for information and for documents to the Madison City Clerk to get some clarification on these outstanding questions.
Finally, Ann, how quickly do you want this investigation to unfold and wrap up? You just mentioned the February primary just now weeks away.
We've asked the city attorney of Madison to have that information to us by January 17th, so 2 weeks from today. And I'm very optimistic that we will have it by then. And then the commission can assess the information we get and hopefully be able to move forward so that people have confidence in our February and April elections.
Ann Jacobs, Chair of the Wisconsin Elections Commission. And like always, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Coming up, drama in the House Speaker vote. Congressman Brian Style with us on the latest next.